All right, so get ready because today we're going deep on radical honesty.
Ooh.
Right. Not just like surface level stuff,
Yeah.
We're really diving in.
Right.
We've got this really thought-provoking YouTube video from Dreamium, and I'm so curious, could a life without any lies actually be more fulfilling?
Well, I think right off the bat, the video points out something we all know,
Yeah.
but we don't like to really acknowledge it much.
Right.
Lying is everywhere. I mean,
This is true.
they even call it like a universal language, you know? Have you ever really thought about how often we encounter dishonesty?
It's a constant.
Even in just like the tiniest interactions.
It's true. And the video wasn't even talking about these huge life-altering lies.
Right.
It's the little white lies that we tell every single day.
Exactly.
Telling a friend you love their new haircut.
Oh, yeah.
When you don't.
Sure.
Or agreeing to do extra work when you're already swamped.
Of course we are.
We're practically drowning in these like everyday deceptions.
We are, and we kind of justify it too, right?
Oh, totally.
Like we tell ourselves it's for social harmony.
Right.
We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Right. Wouldn't want to cause a scene.
Exactly. Or, we want to protect ourselves from conflict
Right.
or extra responsibility.
Yep.
But the video is kind of challenging us to look at the costs of living this way.
Yeah. The video uses some pretty strong imagery here.
Yeah.
It talks about a life poisoned by lies.
Ooh.
A house of cards built on deception.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit unsettling.
Yeah, it is. And then they bring up Freud.
Oh, yeah.
Which gets even more interesting.
Yeah.
The whole idea that lies can be unconscious defense mechanisms
Right.
against painful truths makes you wonder if all those little white lies are actually hurting us more
Right.
than helping.
In the long run,
Yes.
it's like we're constantly trying to manage how people see us.
Yeah.
Even if it means not being our true selves.
Really.
And I know I've definitely fallen into that trap.
So the question the video poses is if we're always wearing a mask,
Right.
how can we truly know ourselves?
Yeah.
And if we don't know ourselves, how can we have genuine connections
That's such a good point.
with other people?
And that leads us perfectly into radical honesty,
Yes.
which the video presents as the antidote to all this deception.
Yeah, it's not just about telling the truth, though.
Oh, okay.
It's like a complete transformation
Right.
in how we relate to ourselves and how we relate to the world.
Wow.
Imagine like shedding all those masks and filters.
No, they're pretending.
No more posturing.
Okay, that sounds both incredibly liberating and totally terrifying.
Right. It goes against everything we've been taught
Oh, yeah.
about social etiquette
Yeah.
and self-preservation.
So how do we even approach this radical honesty?
Well, the video takes us back to like childhood, suggesting that's where a lot of this dishonesty starts.
Yeah.
You think about it, like, how many times were you told to be a good boy and, like, hide your tears?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Or to smile pretty?
Oh, yeah.
Even when you feel terrible,
Yeah, right.
Like, from a young age, we're taught that
Yeah.
certain emotions are just not okay.
Right.
You've got to present this certain face to the world, regardless of how we feel.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
Right.
As adults, we're just bombarded
Well, that's still
with these messages about self-improvement and like achieving this ideal life.
Yes. Get the perfect body land, the dream job, project this image of success. It creates so much pressure to conform.
Oh, totally.
And to hide anything that's seen as a flaw.
Right. Or a weakness.
Exactly.
So we end up building this like carefully curated persona, this prison of appearances, as the video calls it. But is that kind of self-deception really sustainable?
Well, the video argues it's not.
Okay.
We might get some external validation, but at what cost?
Yeah.
It's like we're living someone else's life, just performing a role.
Totally.
Instead of embracing who we really are.
Yeah. And that disconnect can lead to a whole host of problems. Anxiety, depression, just this constant sense of emptiness.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that?
Absolutely.
Like you're going through the motions, but not really living.
Yeah. And that's where the video suggests radical honesty can actually be transformative.
Okay.
It's not like a quick fix,
Right.
but a journey of dismantling those walls that we built around ourselves.
Okay. I'm all for authenticity.
Yeah.
But isn't there a risk in being totally open and vulnerable?
Yeah.
What about, those who might take advantage
Yeah.
or judge us for our honesty?
That's a valid concern, and the video doesn't shy away from the challenges. It acknowledges that radical honesty can be terrifying.
Right.
especially in a world that rewards conformity and image management.
So how do we reconcile this need for self-protection with this desire to be authentic?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The video touches on the idea of nonviolent communication.
Okay.
And I think exploring that further could be helpful.
Okay, yeah.
Have you ever heard of it?
I have, but I'm not super familiar.
Okay.
It has something to do with expressing yourself honestly,
Yes.
but still being respectful of others.
Exactly. It's about stating your needs and feelings without blame or judgment.
Okay.
It's a way to be both truthful and compassionate.
Right.
Which I think aligns with radical honesty.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So instead of blurting out every thought that crosses our minds, radical honesty is about being mindful of how we express ourselves.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's not about being brutally honest for the sake of shock value.
Right.
You know? It's about cultivating a deeper level of self-awareness and learning to communicate authentically in a way that builds connection rather than creates conflict.
Okay, this is starting to feel less like a rigid set of rules and more like a nuanced approach to living with more intention and integrity.
Exactly. It's about shifting our mindset from self-preservation to genuine connection.
Right.
And that can have a ripple effect, not just in our own lives, but in our communities and even society as a whole.
So let's say someone is intrigued by this concept of radical honesty.
Okay.
But hesitant to dive in head first.
Sure.
What would be a good first step towards integrating this into their life?
Well, the video gives some pretty powerful examples of what this could look like, like in real life, instead of forcing a smile and saying, I'm fine.
Right.
When you're actually really struggling, you might just say I'm having a really rough day.
Right.
Or instead of pretending to be super confident, you could say, well, actually, I'm feeling pretty nervous about this.
Okay, so it's about giving ourselves permission to be human.
Exactly.
To embrace all those imperfections.
Yes.
And vulnerabilities that we try so hard to hide.
Yeah, we're so quick to hide those.
But then isn't there a risk of oversharing?
Right.
Where's the line?
That's a good question.
Between being radically honest
and
being inappropriate or insensitive?
Well, that's where discernment comes in.
Okay.
Radical honesty isn't about just dumping all your emotional baggage on some unsuspecting person.
Oh, gosh.
It's about being mindful of the context and choosing to be authentic in a way that serves both yourself and the other person.
So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly. It's about learning to communicate your truth with clarity, compassion, and respect. And honestly, that takes practice.
Oh, for sure.
It's a skill that you develop over time.
And that's where techniques like nonviolent communication can be so helpful.
Yes.
It gives us a framework, for expressing ourselves honestly without resorting to blame or judgment.
Right. It's about shifting from a you versus me mentality to a we mentality.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to connect with others on a deeper level through shared vulnerability and understanding.
So it seems like the video is saying that radical honesty isn't just about personal growth. It's about transforming our relationships.
Yeah.
And even society as a whole.
Yes.
Is that a bit too idealistic, or do you think there's something to that?
I think there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where people felt safe to just be themselves.
Right.
Where being vulnerable was seen as a strength instead of a weakness.
Right.
It could fundamentally change how we interact with each other.
That's a pretty inspiring vision.
Yeah, it is.
But it also begs the question.
Yeah.
If we're so conditioned to lie and deceive, is radical honesty even achievable?
Yeah.
On a large scale?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
But even if we don't reach this utopia of complete honesty, I think striving for it can have a powerful impact.
It's like planting seeds of authenticity.
Exactly.
That could ripple outward, and inspire others to question the status quo and embrace a more truthful way of being.
Yeah. And it all starts with just one person making a choice to step out of the shadows.
Okay.
And into the light of their own truth.
So for our listener out there who might be feeling inspired, but maybe also a little overwhelmed, what's one small tangible step that they could take today to move towards radical honesty?
Well, I would say start by noticing when you're tempted to tell a white lie.
Yeah.
Even a seemingly harmless one.
Right.
Just pause.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what's the motivation behind it? And what would it look like to choose honesty in this?
So it's about becoming aware of those patterns.
Exactly.
Of dishonesty and consciously choosing a different path.
Yes. And remember, you don't have to be perfectly honest all the time.
Right.
Just start with small steps.
Okay.
And be gentle with yourself.
This has been such an incredible deep dive.
Yeah, I have.
Into radical honesty.
It really has.
It's definitely challenged me to think about my own relationship with truth and how I can show up more authentically in the world.
Yeah, I think it's done the same for me.
To wrap things up, I think the video's closing statement really says it all. Radical honesty is a declaration of inner freedom. It's a way to break free from those limitations imposed by lies and step into the fullness of who we really are.
Powerful word.
And that's it for our deep dive into radical honesty. We hope this conversation has given you some food for thought.
Yeah.
And maybe even inspired you to embark on your own journey towards a more authentic way of being.
I hope so.
Until next time, stay curious.
Yes.
Keep exploring.
Absolutely.
And keep seeking the truth.
Couldn't agree more.